Hi, this is Sudhir. This is C#.NET Jagged Array tutorial. So jagged array is a special type of array which is also known as array in an array because it's going to have a static rows and dynamic columns. For example, you can see here we have a diagram of a jagged array. In that, in the first row there are 3 columns which contains values like 3, 4 and 5. In the second row the number of columns are 4 which contains values like 1, 2, 3 and 4. That means rows here are static, which is 2, but the columns you can't give a number because they are dynamic in nature. The first row it's going to be 3 columns and in the second row it is 4 columns. Like that, if you want to create a table of data in an array which is dynamic in nature, then you can use this type of array called as jagged array. So syntax for creating jagged array is data type, square braces open and close, again open and close. This part of syntax says to the compiler that it's a jagged array, and then you have to give an array name equal to new space data type of the jagged array followed by square braces. In that you have to mention the number of rows. In this example it's going to be 2 because we need 2 rows, and next is the square braces in which you have to leave empty because you can't define the number of columns because it is varying in nature, where in the first row it is 3 and in the second row it is 4. So when you are creating a jagged array, you can mention the number of rows but not the columns. That is why jagged array is known as an array with static rows and dynamic columns. And you can also see it looks like an array in an array. In the first row it's like a single dimensional array. The second row again it looks like one more single dimensional array. Every row looks like one more array, so it is called as array in an array. And one more example code we have is int square brace open close space a equal to new int of 2, and the columns is not mentioned here. So in this int is the data type. That means all the elements in a jagged array should be of int data type. A is the name of a jagged array. Again int is the data type of the array, and 2 is the number of rows. We are going to have 2 rows, but the columns is dynamic in nature. So this is the program for creating this jagged array. Initially we have to create the array int square brace open close space a equal to new int of 2, and the columns number is not mentioned, which because we want to create an array of name a with the data type int with the 2 rows and dynamic columns. In the second line you can see a of 0 means the first row, 0th row. In that you can again create one more array a of 0 equal to new int of 3. I want 3 elements inside the first row, so I can directly mention 3, 4, 5 in the square braces, in the curly braces, so that 3, 4, 5 will be occupying the first 3 places inside the first row. Next, a of 1 equal to new int of 4. 4 values 1, 2, 3, 4 can be given here. So this is how we assign a values to a jagged array, where every time for every row you can mention the column numbers, and you can assign some values to that. After that you have 2 for loops. One is for the row number of rows, second is for the number of columns. So we have 2 rows, so 0, I equal to 0, I less than 2. So it's going to be 0 and 1 row will be occupied, and I value contains the row number. Here it is different when compared to multi-dimensional array. Here every time when the row is, we are going into the row, we have to know the number of columns in that present row. So at that time I have used for int j equal to 0, j less than a of I, means first row it is a of 0, the first row dot length. It gives the first row length which is 3. Again in the second time when the loop is repeated, a of 1 dot length, that means second row dot length, it's going to be 4. So 4 times the loop is repeated. Like that, to get the dynamic columns number, I'm using a of I dot length here. And for printing the values inside console, to printing the values inside jagged array, I have used console.write of a I j as shown here. So I'm going to show you the same program demo in my Visual Studio now. So here is my console application with my main method with no code. First I'm going to create a jagged array with some 2 rows. Next step, I'm going to assign values to my jagged array. The third step, I'm going to print the values in jagged array using 2 for loops. So I'm going to start with creating jagged array. The syntax is int is the data type of the array. You have to write the square braces like this, which says that it's a jagged array. Next, array name, for example a equal to new int is the data type you have to mention again. You can give the number of columns. Now number of rows, which is static, but you shouldn't mention column names because it is dynamic. This is how we create a jagged array. So a named jagged array is created with 2 rows. Now to assign the values, a of 0 is the first row. In that I want to give some values to that. For example, I want 3 values, so I have to mention int of 3. I can assign the values here. For example, 3, 4 and 5, semicolon. So 3 values 3, 4, 5 are assigned to the first row. Now to the second row I am going to give 4 values. They are 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 values are assigned to the second row. So my jagged array is ready with 2 rows, and in the first row 3 columns and the second row 4 columns with some values inside it. Now to print it I have to use a for loop, I equal to 0, I less than 2, because I have 2 rows. I plus plus is for increment. This is for number of rows. For number of columns I'm going to use one more for loop, int j equal to 0, j less than, here I can't give a static number because column numbers is not static. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this formula a of I. I always changes, I is a row number. In that row, a of I is a row. In that I can use a method called length, because a of I is the first row, it's an array. The length of that is going to, first time it's going to be 3, next time it's going to be 4. These numbers will be returned there. I plus plus. I'm going to use console.write to print some values. It is a of I and j. And after the first for loop, inside for loop I want to print empty space in console.write line so that it will move for the next line. And also at the end of the program I want to write console.read key so that it will wait till I press a key so that I can see my output. So I'm going to, this is the program for creating a jagged array, assigning values to it and printing values inside a jagged array using these 2 for loops. I'm going to see the output now. It is throwing an array. It's throwing an error here. It's not. So here I have to increment function insert. Instead of I plus plus I have to write j plus plus here. I have to increment the value inside this for loop. I'm going to execute it again. You can see 3, 4, 5 printed in the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4 is printed in the second row values. So this is how a jagged array can be printed. Thank you.